This is a full story. Kitten wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. The worse my relationship with Hailey, the worse this interview was going. The woman who ruined my entire high school life is now, 7 years later, my interviewer. Did I actually think she was beautiful just now? What a fool I am. Later, she stood before me in a pure white wedding dress, her eyes shining with affection and a smile that seemed to melt the air. She asked, "Do I look good?" I swallowed hard and nodded. Beautiful, such a beautiful person, and now she's my wife. 3 interviewers sat across from me, 2 men and 1 woman. From what they said, it seemed like they wanted me to turn a bunch of steel pipes into a mahogany sofa. I resisted the urge to snap back and looked at them. The woman had her hair styled in soft waves, fair skin, and wore delicate, thin-rimmed gold glasses. Her small, adorable nose contrasted strikingly with the exaggerated curves on her chest. Her taste might be questionable, but she's truly pretty. I thought to myself, darkly amused, that she definitely embodies the idea of all-embracing and all-accepting. She noticed my gaze, darted a quick glance at me, and then looked down, pretending to play with her phone. Strange. It felt like she was more nervous than I was. The more I looked, the more familiar she seemed. Like a thin bubble was obscuring her face, just begging me to pop it and reveal her true identity. She peeked at me again, and when she saw I was still staring, she hastily put down her phone, pretending to inspect her nails. Suddenly, I stood up and pointed at her. "Hailey!" She jumped to her feet, stammering, What? Don't try anything." Old grudges flooded over me as I stepped towards her. Don't try anything? Maybe my face looked fierce because the man in the middle reached out to stop me. "What are you doing?" Then he turned to her. "Hailey, do you two know each other?" She clutched her chest, took a step back, and nodded meekly. Oh, 7 years gone by, and now she's acting like a delicate lady? Where was that tough, rough girl who threw me to the ground in high school? The one who kicked me into pieces? Back in high school, I was the quiet, artsy type who stayed out of trouble. I had 2 unforgettable classmates. One was Serena, and the other was Hailey. Serena was beautiful, and I enjoyed secretly sketching her. One day, a whole stack of my sketches was snatched by Jack, who held them high in the air. "Let me see who's in these drawings." A crowd gathered instantly, and I had no chance of retrieving my sketchbook. They flipped through page by page. A girl daydreaming by the window, smiling softly. Every sketch was of the same girl. Finally, they all turned to look at Serena. She froze, then blushed deeply and hid her face in her arms on the desk. My heart sank. My quiet crush, supposed to remain unnoticed, was laid bare for everyone to see. Head hanging low, I walked home, stepping on my own shadow. "Hey, Rocky." A soft, sweet voice sounded from behind me. Serena was smiling, following closely. "I'm sorry," I mumbled, looking down, feeling I had embarrassed her. "Give me the sketchbook," she said, extending her slender fingers that seemed translucent in the sunset glow. I fumbled to retrieve it, and she cradled it, gave a little hum, and turned away. Then, glancing back, she flashed me a smile. "They're pretty good. I like them." Watching her hair sway in the breeze, I felt my heart soar, my youthful feelings blossoming wildly. Unfortunately, Hailey smashed them to pieces. Hailey, our sports rep, had short hair and was great at basketball. She even represented our school in competitions. Perhaps because of her brute strength, she had no patience for anything artistic or delicate. Whenever a little comic I drew made its way to her, she'd crumple it up and toss it in the trash. After the sketchbook incident, she took a seat on my desk, looking every bit like a rogue. "Hey, big shot artist, if you have the time, draw something for me too." Then she jumped off my desk and made an exaggerated air basketball shot. Years of outdoor training had given her tan skin and a strong, athletic look. At that time, I liked fair-skinned, delicate girls and didn't understand the beauty of her vibrant energy. I shook my head. "I can't." She raised an eyebrow. "What's that supposed to mean? Don't you draw all the time?" There was no way I could say she wasn't pretty enough to inspire me. She was admired among the girls. Crossing her was a death wish. I said I only drew faces, not bodies. "Fine, don't want to draw? Our class still needs a guy for the 1600 meters. You're up." "Useless." She exchanged a mischievous look with Serena. "Right, Serena? Isn't he just useless?" Serena stifled a laugh, and Jack and the others egged me on. My temper flared. "Fine, I'll run." And that was how I fell into Hailey's trap. Unbelievable. He passed out running the 1,600 meters. Wow, even sports students avoid that race. 1,600 is tougher than 3,000. What's even funnier, a girl went to help him, and he puked all over her shoes. Unlucky for me, that girl was Serena. After that, she politely distanced herself, never again even showing me that shy, warm smile. All of this thanks to Hailey's wicked plan. She must have known I'd embarrass myself like that. From then on, I harbored a deep resentment toward her. I retaliated with a series of comics of a Dino girl playing basketball, and a few days later, my high-definition puking photo was circulating around the school. Damn, she even took a picture of me. I hid her bike in the boys' bathroom. The next day, my bike was hanging from a tree. My entire high school experience turned into an all-out war with her. As finals approached, she said, "It's getting old. Let's call it even." I glared at this woman who had humiliated me for 2 years and ground out, "Let's fight. Like men, in a real fight." "Fine," she agreed without hesitation. In an empty gym, I got the wind knocked out of me when she flipped me over her shoulder. She pinned me down, her arm around my neck, gazing down at me with a mocking smile. "Do you surrender?" Face flushed, I struggled furiously. She held firm, both of us panting heavily. Her breath hit my face. Why does she smell like strawberries? Why does this tomboy smell like strawberries? That moment left a scar. I developed a lifelong aversion to anything strawberry flavored. I fought back, locking my legs around her waist and flipping her over, holding her down while blowing garlic breath in her face. Hey, if she's ruthless, why should I go easy? I had eaten garlic chive dumplings. After all, she stared at me wide-eyed, looking almost dazed for a moment. She admitted defeat, stood up to adjust her clothes, and asked, "Happy now?" I grabbed her by the neck, pushing her down slightly. "From now on, you're my lackey." To my surprise, gripping her neck was like hitting a weak spot. She went completely soft, repeatedly begging for mercy. For a while, I basked in the glory of controlling her weak spot, and she became my obedient lackey. When it came time to choose colleges, she even did thorough research for me, suggesting furniture design. Her earnest encouragement almost moved me enough to thank her. But as it turns out, you can't trust a traitor. On graduation day, I was looking for Serena, hoping to take a solo photo with her. She hesitated a moment, then agreed. I slipped my hand in my pocket, tilted slightly to one side, and lifted one corner of my mouth. Confidently, I felt I looked pretty cool in my black pants and white shirt, worthy of handsome. And this pose, I had practiced it at home, aiming to capture the "there goes my youth" photo of a lifetime. Just as I felt victorious, a force hit my back, sending me sprawling face first. Snapshot. Hailey yelled, "Idiot." By the time I got up, she was gone, leaving a footprint on my clothes. Jack told me she had kicked me from behind. Serena walked away, stifling her laughter. When anger peaks, one becomes eerily calm. I realized then that any association with Hailey would only bring endless trouble. I blocked her out of my life, and no matter how she acted, I ignored her. Finally, peace was mine. After graduating from university, I joined a furniture factory. There was nothing elegant or refined about it, certainly not like a designer's life I'd imagined. With a hard hat on my head, a tape measure clipped to my waistband, I ran back and forth between the office and the workshop. Sometimes, I'd even get into heated arguments with the workshop masters over process issues. By the end of each day, I'd return to my dorm covered in wood shavings. Despite all the hard work, the salary was a constant concern. I still couldn't afford the Leica gear I dreamed of, and my parents, funny enough, who kept a close watch on me during university to prevent any dating, were even stricter once I started working, warning me that if I dared to date, I might as well not come home, as if this was an industrial zone full of guys at the furniture plant. Girls? Romance? Career? They were all just mirages now. Only then did I realize that Hailey's well-aimed kickback in the day had shattered not just my youth, but any future love, too. This year, out of the blue, my parents issued an ultimatum: quit your job and come home for matchmaking, or you'll be written out of the family. So, I handed in my resignation, leaving the industrial zone with my co-workers gazing reluctantly after me. But once I got home, my mom, mysteriously, told me that I'd come back too late. The girl had waited too long and left, leaving me speechless. After a few days lazing around, I received an interview invitation for a well-paying job, so I decided to go. Little did I know that 7 years later, I'd be face-to-face with Hailey again, and she was interviewing me. My God, what was wrong with me for thinking she looked stunning just now? The male interviewer came out and pushed me back, but I brushed his hand off. "Get lost. This is none of your business." Hailey quickly stepped in. "Peter, you guys step out first. Let me talk to him." Peter, with his slicked back hair and dapper look, poked my chest and warned, "Watch yourself, or I'll deal with you myself." Hailey, clearly worried I might actually start a fight, hurriedly pushed him out and said, "It's fine. It's just a misunderstanding between us." A misunderstanding? I laughed in disbelief. I grabbed her by the back of the neck. "Oh, let's discuss our misunderstanding then. 7 years, and every time I think of it, my teeth ache. Just like old times." Her whole body went limp, and she pleaded, let go, let me go." go. I released her, and we stared each other down, sizing each other up. They say women change with age. She must have changed 72 times. Softly, she said, "Long time no see, Rocky. What brings you back?" I replied curtly, "Thanks to you. I'm here to be forced into matchmaking." "What does your matchmaking have to do with me?" This dumb major left me no way to even meet girls. She chuckled, a glint of mischief in her eyes. "Come work at our company. There are tons of pretty girls." I patted my pants, getting ready to leave. "Forget it. I'd rather not see you again. $15,000 a month." I stopped mid-step. That salary, while not outrageous, was quite comfortable for a small city like this. $20,000. After a struggle, I turned to leave again, suspecting that no matter the pay, I'd lose my life sticking around her. $30,000. I sat back down, squaring my shoulders. "Just like that, $30,000? What do you own this place?" She glanced out the door, leaned close and whispered, "I do, but keep it a secret. No one knows. A man must have principles." But taking Hailey's money was fair game. On my first day, I made a point of sprucing myself up. With a neatly tied man bun and a fitted work uniform, I looked in the mirror, satisfied. Just a touch of sophistication beneath the ruggedness. I smiled at my reflection. Today, I was ready to charm a few ladies. No more matchmaking. I'd just find someone myself. To be fair, Hailey hadn't lied. The company did have plenty of beautiful women. Well, if only they didn't all wear wedding rings. In the midst of the flashy women surrounding me, I felt completely out of place. They pulled on my hair, pinched my shoulders. "Oh, such a handsome young man. My, your arms are quite firm." Hailey was laughing from a distance, only stepping in when one of the women lifted my shirt to check for abs. I glared at her, feeling like I'd fallen for it again. How could I trust a turncoat like her? All those pretty girls turned out to be cheeky women. After work, Hailey stopped me. "Come on, let me treat you to dinner." I gave her a sharp look, and she immediately tensed up. "About that $30,000 a month pay, that's legit, right?" She thumped her chest confidently, white and black on paper, as clear as day. I rolled my eyes at her exaggerated, girly mannerisms. "Stop playing the victim act. You don't suit the demure look at all." I turned to leave, but she tugged at my hair, almost making me trip. There was her true nature. I rolled up my sleeves, ready for a brawl, but she just kept smiling gently, saying, "7 years later, and you still explode at the slightest touch. Can't you give your boss some respect and let me treat you?" We had hot pot, and for once, she was decent, mixing my sauce, serving the meat. Curious, I asked her how a former athlete ended up running a design company. She tilted her head, her soft curls cascading down, her expression sweet. "No rule says you have to work in your major, right?" Through the mist rising from the hot pot, her face blurred slightly, and strangely enough, looked kind of pretty. I stared at her, recalling the tanned face and sharp brows from high school, now replaced by fair skin and gentle features, flickering back and forth in my mind. A shiver ran through me. Wow, women really were born actresses. She raised her glass, a formal apology with tea. I scoffed. "Back then, you kicked me so hard I landed face first. I can't be as chill as you are." "I'm sorry." Hearing her sincere apology, watching her lower her head, I was silent, feeling a bit deflated. I poured out her tea. "Change it to white wine, and we'll settle this as friends. No past grievances." Her eyes lit up, and she ordered a bottle of premium baijiu, downing a full cup in one go. Her boldness was impressive. I drained my cup too. "Fine, Hailey. This meal's on me, and we'll write off our grudges. Let's go our separate ways, never meeting again." Her smile vanished. "What's that supposed to mean? If the salary's too low, I can raise it. How about 40,000? I was puzzled. 30,000 was already extravagant for a designer in this town. I'd agreed yesterday, honestly, just to take her for a ride. I explained. "I came back to settle down, and I'll be on my way once it's done." Triumphantly, she pulled out a contract, waving it with glee. "Too late. The contract states you're committed for 3 years. Breach, and it's 10 times the compensation." I was baffled. Did she think I had a fortune to burn? Hailey's company mainly handles trade show cabinets for wine displays. Clients focus on eye-catching designs, not necessarily on high-quality materials, as long as they're sturdy and durable. Looking back, I may have misunderstood them at the interview. Hailey holds a position in HR, spending her days dutifully watching shows and playing games in her small office. The other women at the company are mostly translators or order clerks. In the furniture factory, I was constantly covered in sawdust, but here, I'm surrounded by heavy, perfume-scented air, caught up in the atmosphere. I've even started to take a real interest in these wine cabinets. However, barely 5 days in, they've got me spinning like a top with tasks. My boss is Peter, rumored to be a top student from Suzhou University, serving as the company's director. He seems keen on showing his authority, bombarding me with emails, nitpicking every proposal I submit, a task that could be completed in one pass. He'll divide up into 3 or 4 rounds. First the line colors, then a complaint about font color, plus some snark about me being a nepotism hire. I found myself stuck at my desk working late into the night, glued to my screen until 9 p.m. Fully focused on my work, I was startled by a quiet voice in my ear, and I almost tossed my mouse. "Are you super busy? Can you not creep up on me like that?" I almost cursed. Hailey stuck out her tongue playfully, which somehow gave me chills instead of charm. "All right, before I lose my professionalism here, could you please scoot? You're distracting me." She watched the screen for a bit, then nonchalantly closed my laptop. "Quitting time. Let's go grab a drink." I nearly lost it. "Are you insane? I hadn't saved that." She just shrugged. "It's fine. Tomorrow, I'll reassign some of your work. Less on your plate." I eyed her suspiciously. "What's that about?" "The old trick. Work hard, get a treat. Piling on the work to wear me down? Hate to disappoint you, but this stuff's child's play for me. It just takes time." She paused, giving me an amused, thoughtful look, and finally said with a small smile, "Rocky, can you think a little better of me?" "Nope. So, drink or no?" "No." She turned to leave. "Your loss. I was about to tell you some news about Serena." This was the first time in my life that gossip got my attention. In a dimly lit bar with soft music, I poured Hailey a fruity drink with a hopeful smile. "So, tell me more." But she deflected, asking about my experiences over the years. Finally, she shared. "Serena got married abroad right after graduating college. Just last year, she came back. Rumor has it, divorced." Stunned, I stayed silent. I hadn't even had my first relationship, and she was already divorced. I remembered that evening when she looked back at me with a smile, holding her sketchbook, glowing in the twilight. Hailey leaned in and asked, "So, are you heartbroken? Want her WeChat? You still have a chance." I shook my head, downing my drink in silence. With nothing else to talk about, we just drank quietly, and she snapped a photo for her social media. I grew suspicious. "Hand over your phone." "For what?" She wouldn't give it to me, so I grabbed her by the neck and took it anyway. As I scrolled through her album, I found a recent shot of me drinking. Scrolling further back, I wasn't surprised to find she'd been sneakily taking photos since the interview. "Hailey, you really haven't changed, have you? Even as a boss?" She repeatedly begged. "Let go. I won't do it again. Let go. It's embarrassing." We were in the middle of this when a figure stormed over, pulling Hailey aside. "Hailey, what are you doing in a place like this?" The tone was one of worry mixed with authority. Peter, judging by his stance, it seemed he and Hailey were close. Not wanting to get involved, I excused myself. Peter blocked my way, glaring with disdain. "Rocky, bringing women to bars. People like you disgust me." I shoved him aside. "Get over yourself. Work hours are over. You're not the boss here." But he continued blocking me, droning on. He accused me of getting into the company through connections, sneering that he wasn't afraid of me and would fire me if I kept bothering his Hailey. "Then do me a favor and fire me," I replied. Hailey broke free, scolding him. "What are you even saying? I brought him here." Peter didn't believe it, asking if I was holding something over her. He assured her she didn't need to fear me. His imagination was running wild. I was losing patience with his attitude and let out a laugh as I brushed past him, shouldering him aside. Enraged, he went to grab my head, but I dodged, elbowing him in the chest. He stumbled back, his face red, ready to come at me again. Perfect. After high school, haunted by the humiliation of Hailey pinning me down, I had taken up boxing and weightlifting. I could handle myself just fine. Hailey looked genuinely anxious, pulling Peter back. "Why are you here, Peter? I saw your post about a bar and got worried. Turns out this scumbag dragged you here." Seeing him glowering and hurt, barking that he'd teach me a lesson, I laughed. Some people are just all talk. I started to leave, but Hailey followed, apologizing and pleading with me not to get mad. I waved her off. "Enough. Every time I'm around you, things go south." Peter wasn't done, grabbing Hailey's arm. "Hailey, you don't have to be afraid." Hailey's gaze grew icy. "Let go." Peter was stunned by her expression, muttering, "Hailey, let go of my arm and stop following us." The next day, Peter rejected all my emails without explanation. I barged into his office, demanding an answer, but he didn't even look up, brushing me off with a vague, unsuitable. In the furniture factory, this would have led to a brawl, and then we'd sort things out afterward. Honestly, I missed that straightforwardness. For days, his emails came in like snowflakes, my messages flooded with criticism. He deliberately staggered the timing, sending emails just before deadlines. I sent Hailey a message, "Boss, I don't think I can keep this job." She replied, "One moment." Shortly after, the company's group chat lit up with a message from the mysterious boss account. Notification, effective immediately. Rocky will report directly to me, with Xiaoqiu and Shaola assisting in translation. No one else may interfere. Then, the boss tagged Peter directly. All of Rocky's backlogged work should now be redistributed under your management. The office fell silent, and even I was a bit stunned. Yes, the nepotism rumors would spread, but it felt strangely satisfying. I quickly messaged Hailey, "Hey, do you know how to proofread?" "No. So make sure anything you send my way is absolutely perfect." With a sudden reduction in work, I found myself with idle time. Hailey, sensing my boredom, chatted with me and even encouraged me to play games. Sometimes she'd sneak downstairs for takeout, and we'd eat and play in her office. I couldn't help but tease her, "Boss, isn't it a bit stingy not to treat your employees to afternoon tea?" She replied with mock seriousness, "With so many women around, I have to protect their figures. No snacks allowed." Scoffing, I started to joke about her own figure, then I noticed her curves and slim waist and shut up right away. One day, like usual, we finished gaming and were getting ready to head out. Hailey asked, "Remember Jack? He's organizing a class reunion. Are you going?" I declined. Because of embarrassing memories from high school after graduation, I wanted to live as if I were a different person. I hadn't stayed in touch with any classmates. With a teasing smile, she mentioned that Serena would be there and asked if I didn't want to see my former goddess again. I hesitated but eventually refused. I hadn't achieved anything impressive over the years. Going would only make me look bad. Something about that answer must have amused her because she burst into laughter. I glared at her, annoyed. After regaining her composure, she dangled her BMW keys and said, "I'll lend you the car. You can play the boss, and I'll be the secretary. How about it?" I looked her up and down, already swayed. If I could turn the tables on that once dreaded woman, make her my little secretary, show up in a luxury car in front of the classmates who once ridiculed me, it felt like a chance to wash away every shameful memory from high school. I squinted at her. "You're not planning to pull a trick on me, are you? You're not going to embarrass me at the reunion, right?" She raised her hand and earnestly promised she wouldn't. That evening, when I picked up Hailey, I was genuinely stunned. She had done light makeup and was wearing an evening gown, looking both elegant and serene. "Wow, Hailey, like this, no one would even recognize you." She blinked at me. "So, boss, does your secretary look good enough?" I nodded repeatedly, stammering a thank you. She frowned slightly, then directed me to a mall to buy a suit and dress shoes. One glance at the price tags. Ouch. But after changing, I did look sharp, though I felt torn about the cost just for a show. Hailey straightened my cuffs and collar, giving a satisfied nod. "There, that's a proper boss look." Her fingers brushed my neck, giving me goosebumps. Checking the time, she had me sit down while she redid my hair, parting the bangs and tidying the ends. "Fine, no going back now on this act." When I went to pay, the salesperson informed me, "Sir, your lady has already covered it." Ecstatic, I threw an arm around Hailey's shoulder. "Thanks, buddy. I'll pay you back." She pushed me off, annoyed. "Who's your buddy? Come on, let's go." The reunion was held in a sprawling venue with ponds and flower beds artfully placed. Hailey walked half a step behind me, her heels clicking rhythmically. Entering the hall, the surprised looks from others gave me a surge of pride. Jack, now chubbier, nudged his glass toward me with a smirk. "Boss Rocky, life's changed, huh? Taming the demon girl from high school." Feigning indifference, I gave a small nod. I had my reasons for playing it cool. Serena was seated next to me. The moment I entered, I'd been scanning for her. She sat in a corner in a pale blue dress, a matching headband in her hair, still as pure-looking as a student without a trace of her life's hardships. When we sat down, Jack smoothly moved Serena to the seat beside me. Gathering my nerve, I managed to say, "It's been a while." She chuckled softly. "With the way you're doing, Rocky, no wonder you never kept in touch with us." She raised her glass to me, her fingertips brushing my hand slightly, and for a moment, I was nervous. Hailey, meanwhile, was drawing a crowd, as she was already well respected in high school and had transformed from a crazy girl to a beauty. Several classmates surrounded her, showing off. She kept a polite smile, not drinking, then glanced at me in mock annoyance, saying she couldn't drink because she had to drive me home later and that Rocky could drink on her behalf. Seeing she was committed to the act, I relaxed and accepted every toast. If not for my experience downing cheap liquor back in the day, I'd be out by now. Midway through, Serena slid her phone over, displaying her WeChat QR code. I felt a jolt. After graduation, she She was the only one I tried to reach out to, but she never responded. Yet here she was, handing me her coat herself. And oddly, no one mentioned any of my high school embarrassments with Hailey. I felt surreal, even a little bitter. After a bit of reminiscing, the usual small talk about connections and business started up. Hailey was effortlessly handling it all. Only Serena, perhaps with her unique background, slipped away alone. Tipsy, I followed her out, expecting laughter or remarks. I was surprised that no one reacted. In the hallway, she stared blankly at the sky, and I joined her, expecting to say something profound, but only managed, "Life is a journey." The alcohol surged, and I dashed away, finding myself over a sink, vomiting in an undignified replay of a school marathon. Just like that, back to being a clown. This time, Serena didn't scream or run. She just gently patted my back, saying, "Don't drink so quickly." The emotions swelled, overwhelming me. Not long after, Hailey showed up, guiding me out of the venue. As we walked along the flowered path, the leaves rustled in the breeze. I tried to wave for the bill, slurring, "It's on me, the bill's on me." Hailey held me, cooing like to a child, all right, it's covered." When I woke up, I was in a hotel. Fragments of memories surfaced, refusing to go home, rambling, and even shedding tears. I was overwhelmed with gratitude for Hailey and dialed her to thank her. The ringtone buzzed from the nightstand. Hailey's phone? I froze, scanning the room, noticing my suit hanging neatly and a small red bag on the sofa. Oh no. Standing outside the bathroom door, I asked shakily, "Hailey?" A muffled sound came from inside. The door opened, and there she was, brushing her teeth, wearing a loose robe that made her look radiant. Hailey resumed her routine, grumbling, "What's with the yelling? We each had our own bed. I didn't take advantage of you. You drank yourself unconscious, and I was worried all night. You're restless too," kept kicking the blankets. I was mortified, blushing as I stammered out a thank you. Later in the month, I received a message, 30,000 deposited into my account. I was stunned and asked Hailey, "Is this for real?" Looking at me blankly, she replied, "Why? Got a problem? If you want a raise, it'll have to wait till next month." I was full of questions. Either my skills were seriously underestimated, or this company was doing something shady under the guise of design. Before I could speak, she frowned, saying, "Quick, come check this out. There's an issue with a product, and the client wants compensation." I rushed over. It was one of my wine cabinet designs. There was a load-bearing problem, causing a support to break under the display items. I checked the design carefully, and when I saw the side support was modified to be 4 millimeters thinner, I swore, "Someone altered this. No wonder it broke." She reassured me, saying she trusted I wouldn't make such a mistake. I thought a moment, then scoffed, "Your trust is nice, but we still need to compensate. Was it Peter's doing?" She shook her head, saying she wasn't sure. Our options were either to compensate or to repair, though the latter would incur hefty shipping costs. Annoyed and anxious, I pulled her up from her seat, opened the software, and started adjusting. Add a steel floor-mounted post on the side. It'll handle the weight and actually improve the design and recognition factor. Check if the client agrees. An hour later, she was excitedly shaking my arm. "Rocky, you're amazing." They approved. I chuckled, embarrassed. Could you stop treating me like a kid? Though the issue was resolved, I couldn't stand Peter's constant malice. The only one who could have modified my files was him. I wanted to confront him. Just as I stood, Hailey pressed me back into my seat. "See, you're acting like a kid now. Besides, he's the design director. I still have a lot of work with clients that goes through him." I stewed in frustration, unable to fathom his grudge against me. Hailey rolled her eyes and mumbled, thick-headed. I thought Hailey would handle things slowly, but to my surprise, she directly demoted Peter. At this point, he stopped pretending. He pulled over a chair, threw down his resignation letter, and laid his legs on the table, sneering, "Okay, Rocky, looks like you've got some solid backing with the boss. I'm done with this crappy company." Then, he adopted a stance as if he had been pretending to be just an ordinary guy. But now, with distance, he revealed his true self. He said, "Let me introduce myself again. I'm the president of Tianhong Corporation. Hailey, the reason I came to this shitty company is for you." According to him, 2 years ago, he personally went to a talent recruitment fair where Hailey was also recruiting. He fell for her at first sight. The position she was hiring for matched his qualifications, so for love, he played the role of a boss applying for a job. "Hailey, come with me. You know how serious I've been about you these 2 years." His heartfelt words stunned both of us. Hailey tapped away at the keyboard, confirming his resignation. No further discussion. He was out. After work, a bit Bentley was parked outside the office, with Peter sitting inside, waving at Hailey. When she ignored him, he got out of the car and hurried over, smiling brightly. "Hailey, I wasn't lying. I'm serious about you. Come with me. My company is much better than this place. You won't be bullied there." Of course, after saying this, he didn't forget to glance at me. Hailey raised an eyebrow impatiently, and I immediately flinched. I remember, when she raises her left eyebrow, it means she's really pissed. And when that happens, things might get physical. But instead, she took a deep breath and said clearly, "First, this shitty company is my hard work. Second, you modified the documents without permission, causing harm to the company. Just because I don't pursue it doesn't mean you're blameless. Finally, bully me? Rocky, tell me, who dares to bully me? You?" Her tone was cold, and I quickly nodded. Exactly. Who am I to bully you?" Peter's mouth hung open, his face turning red. He muttered, "You have no idea how much I like you." "Enough. Stop overacting, Rocky. Let's go." We took a few steps, then she suddenly stopped, turned back, and kicked him hard. "Damn it, you almost made me lose a lot of money. Consider this a warning. Don't bother me again, or I won't be so polite." I couldn't hold back and laughed out loud. Isn't that what Peter once told me? When he tried to make a scene again, I waved my fist at him and he slunk off. Hailey glared at me. "What are you laughing at? Think it's funny? Now that there's no more director, you step up." I quickly stopped laughing. "No way, I can't handle this." She didn't stop walking. Useless. The next day, my office supplies were moved to the director's office, and Hailey moved her little corner into it too. People in the company started whispering. It felt so weird. As I watched her lounging on the couch watching dramas, I rubbed my forehead and finally couldn't resist asking, "Damn, it feels like you're keeping me." She froze for a moment, her lips twitching. After a long while, she said, "What? You're afraid people will say you're living off me?" I spat. If I had to live off someone, it wouldn't be you. Seeing her struggle to hold back her laughter, I sighed. "Hailey, you really don't have to do this. I've said, we're even." For the past 2 months, I've been nitpicking and bothering her, but she's completely changed. She's always sweet and kind to me. Over time, I started feeling a bit guilty. She even made up for the regrets of my high school years. I really didn't have a reason to stay here anymore. Even? You wish. What about what you owe me? What do I owe you? I haven't touched a penny of your money, and if you have the guts, don't refuse it. She threw her tablet aside, saying, "Rocky, are you bored with my company, or do you just not like me?" She got angrier as she spoke, grabbed her coat, and walked out. I hurried to catch up. "Hey, don't say that. I just didn't want to drag you down. You gave me too much money." She was both angry and laughing. "You're the first person I've seen complain about a high salary. You really are useless. So, are you going to be the director or not?" Her expression reminded me of the way she encouraged me to run the 1,600-meter race in high school. She slammed the door, and I returned home, grumbling to my parents about whether or not I should still go on blind dates. If not, I would leave. My mom mysteriously praised the girl to the skies, telling me to wait patiently. That night, Hailey sent me a link to a design competition. She mocked me. "Aren't you always blaming me for forcing you into furniture design? If you're good, prove it. Win the prize, and I'll let you go." She succeeded in getting me fired up. I worked for her during the day and spent my nights pulling my hair out over designs. One afternoon, I received an unexpected message from Serena asking me to dinner. She also sent me a series of photos, which were of my high school yearbook. I didn't know she still had them. The marks in the yearbook seemed to pierce through time, and in that time, she had softened, bathed in a gentle glow. She said, "I'm returning the yearbook. Let's meet one last time. I'm not coming back after this." I had no choice but to ask Hailey if I could borrow the BMW. She asked me where I was going. I was about to tell her the truth, but at the last moment, I suddenly felt uneasy and said I was meeting a college classmate and wanted to show off. She eagerly asked, "Can I come too? You never told me about your college life." I hesitated, saying it wasn't convenient. She hummed and threw the keys at me. Serena chose a restaurant by the river, Shueyun Pavilion. The design of the restaurant was elegant. In high school, I used to come here to sketch it, but I knew the prices inside were high, so I never went in. I sighed, realizing that once I acted all impressive, there was no turning back. We were seated by the window. She smiled gently and pushed the yearbook towards me. I flipped through it and noticed it was well preserved. She asked, "Did you like me in high school?" I looked at her calmly. "Yes, I did." She covered her mouth and giggled, the river breeze lifting her hair, and she looked incredibly gentle. We both avoided talking about why she had been avoiding me after graduation and why she never accepted my WeChat request. I handed the yearbook back to her, and she suddenly placed her hand on top of mine. I froze for a moment. She looked at me calmly. "Do you still like me?" I withdrew my hand and shook my head. If you like the yearbook, keep it. If not, throw it away. Her expression fell, and she gazed out at the vast river, talking about her failed marriage. I really wanted her to stop, to not ruin the image of the girl I remember. I took a sip of tea, and when I turned around, I saw Hailey standing at the stairs. She was dressed in a casual white sweatshirt and jeans, wearing a short-brimmed cap, full of energy. Our eyes met. Oh no, how could this be so coincidental? Serena was still looking out at the river, unaware that Hailey had come up. I nervously waited for Hailey to come over and cause trouble, but instead, she stared at me for a moment with a blank expression, then walked downstairs. I took out my phone to explain, but the message I received was a red exclamation mark. While my mind was in chaos, it seemed Serena had finished her story. With a self-deprecating tone, she said, "Looks like Hailey is still deeply in love with you. She's still following you after all this time. Well, she's that stubborn. Once she sets her mind on something, she's all in." Her words struck me like a thunderclap. I looked up and asked, "What did you say?" She looked confused. "Anyone can see it. She liked you in high school, didn't she?" Then she mocked. "Didn't you also take her on as your little secretary?" "Take her as my little secretary?" I was her little secretary for 2 months. It felt like I had uncovered a huge secret, but this secret was known by everyone except me. "Serena, I have something urgent to deal with. You can head back on your own." I ran off, called Hailey, and as soon as the phone rang, it was hung up. When I tried again, it went straight to voicemail. Thinking back on the past 2 months, her blatant favoritism, I suddenly felt like my heart was stuffed with durian husks, irritated and hurt at the same time. I returned to the office, and it was dark. She wasn't there. Just as I was panicking, my phone rang. Hailey's cold voice came through. "Get over here right now." I sighed in relief and responded cheekily, "Sis, you've got to tell me where you were first so I can come. Don't you dare laugh. Just get over here now." I rushed to her house. She was standing at the gate of the villa. As soon as I got out of the car, she threw a bag at my head. "Here, take it. We're even now." It was a small leather document bag. Inside, I found all the comics I had drawn in high school, which he had confiscated, crumpled, and shoved into a trash bag. When did she quietly gather them all together? Did she carefully smooth out the wrinkles one by one at night? Seeing her turn to go back inside, I ran to grab her hand, but she spun around, glaring at me, her face covered in tears. "Go away." I was anxious but couldn't find the right words, so I played coy. "Then you've got to take me home. It's far." Without waiting for her response, I dragged her to the car. She kept a cold expression the whole time, and though I felt guilty, I couldn't hide the smile on my face. It felt like finally solving an equation that had confused me for 7 years. I had spent countless nights recalling all our grudges, thinking I hated her, but it was actually love and longing. We stopped at a convenience store on the way. "Wait for me, I'm just getting something." She stared out the car window, ignoring me. Tears were still on her face. That image of her, like a little girl, was strangely charming. "Do you dare go somewhere with me? Spit it out. After that, I'm going home." I took her to the back gate of our high school and pointed at the wall. "Do you dare climb in?" There was a hole in the wall, still there after 7 years. I didn't know if it was left by the school for the students. She nervously looked around while I was already climbing the wall and stretched out my hand to her. She cursed softly. "Are you crazy?" I smiled. "I'm almost crazy. Do you want to come?" She stomped her foot and handed me her hand. It was already 11 p.m. The campus was quiet. Even though she was a brave girl, she felt uneasy and couldn't even get mad at me. She quietly let me hold her hand as we wandered through the campus. I pointed at a tree and asked, "Do you remember this tree? You hung my bike on it, and after school, I had to climb it to get it. Everyone was watching, and you shouted, 'Monkeys going up, monkeys going up.' Here, we used to sweep the leaves in the morning and fought with brooms. The broom broke, and we got reprimanded. I paid for the broom later." She snorted. Here, you kicked me in the stomach, and I posed all cool." She burst into laughter. "In the last fight, I actually lost. You knocked me out." She mocked, "Weakling. Want to fight again?" She looked at the empty playground, silent for a while. "Forget it. It's pointless. In your eyes, I'll always be a tomboy." She silently stepped on the white line of the court, and I followed, stepping on her shadow in the moonlight. I really miss it. After graduation, this is the first time I've come back to school. Everything hasn't changed, but it also feels like everything has changed. "OU said you were leaving, but I've already torn up the contract. I'm not keeping you. I always wanted to change the image I had in your heart. I wanted to be a proper lady. I don't have poor eyesight. I just wear glasses to look more ladylike." She started choking up. "I really wanted to contact you in college, college, to apologize, but you never responded. To avoid me, you even changed your number. I guess I really am a terrible person, a contradictory person. I wanted to bully you, but in my heart, I wanted to be good to you. I pulled out the candy I had just bought, strawberry flavored, and popped one in my mouth. I patted her shoulder, and she turned around. In the moonlight, her face was streaked with tears again. I felt both heartache and guilt. I hugged her, and her eyes widened, reflecting the crescent moon in the sky. Can you close your eyes? She panicked, her voice barely a whisper. What are you doing? I kissed her lips. The sweet, strawberry taste filled my senses. Time is truly mysterious. 7 years later, it felt like a complete circle had turned. The university I once hated had now become my most beautiful memory. This hand was held by her, right? Hailey furiously rubbed my hand, using half a bottle of hand wash, still scrubbing it hard. Sis, she suddenly grabbed it. I didn't see it coming. I deliberately dressed up like a college student to impress you. You drive my car and trick me into meeting Serena? She was furious, and I screamed, "Stop, stop, my finger's broken." Did it really break? She panicked. Does it hurt? I'm sorry. I pulled her into my arms. It doesn't hurt. Compared to what you've done to me over the years, this pain is nothing. Tears welled up in her eyes again. You can't say things like that. I'm going to cry. Report, boss. There's a blind date tonight. I refused sternly, but my parents are forcing me. Please give instructions. Go. I eyed her suspiciously. She always says there's nothing wrong, but then disappears at night. She was doing her makeup in the mirror, completely uninterested. She was already pretty, but she still liked to add makeup. She pressed her lips together, a soft peach color, making my heart race. It's fine, really. Just go. Don't let your uncle and aunt be upset. Dress nicely. Then when I meet her, I'll just tell her I already have someone. I'll make sure it doesn't take more than 2 minutes. In the end, I couldn't resist the heat in my chest. I grabbed her struggling hand and kissed her lips, full of lip gloss. I tied up my messy hair and pulled out last year's old clothes. Looking at myself in the mirror, I thought, it's fine. With this shabby look, unless that girl is blind, there's no way she'll say yes. Suddenly, I felt something strange in my heart. It was as if every time I looked in the mirror, things would change. In the living room, my mom was beaming with joy, endlessly repeating, "This girl is so nice." It made my ears sore. Mom, I've already told you I'm in a relationship. You've seen the photo. Do I really have to go? Dad glared at me. You're not going? Do you believe I'll break your legs? Mom grabbed my hand and urged me to hurry. The place for the blind date was a dessert shop, where the sweet, creamy cake scent was overwhelming. I sat dejectedly, waiting for the girl to arrive, sending a message to Hailey to report in, but she didn't reply to a single one. Mom suddenly stood up. Daughter, you're here. I looked up to see Hailey in a floral dress, her eyes full of mischief. I stared dumbfounded as my mom and Hailey's mother walked off, holding hands. Hailey sat down and waved her hand in front of my face. Are you dumb? Didn't I tell you to dress nicely? Didn't you say you'd tell her you already have someone? Wow, it's already past 2 minutes. I glared at her neck with bad intentions, and she instinctively pulled back. Hailey, what's going on here? But this time, she was firm, not saying a word. The second night, at Fuyan Tea Restaurant, both families met. Dad and Hailey's father hit it off immediately, talking about new fishing spots and catches. Hailey's mom asked my mom, holding the menu, "That water chestnut jelly was delicious last time. One for each of us?" Hailey looked perfectly obedient, serving tea for everyone. I felt numb all over. Why did it feel like they were all so familiar with each other, while I was the outsider? After we got home, Mom laughed heartily and told me everything. After you went to university, this little girl kept coming over, asking about you. Your dad liked her a lot. He said she's a girl who loves fiercely. Later, both families met. Don't let her father's gentle demeanor fool you. He was quite a celebrity in our youth. Your dad was worried for a while, afraid they wouldn't like us, afraid we'd lose the daughter-in-law. I was full of questions. Wait, when did you two meet? Let me think. Probably when you were in your second year of university. Hearing this, my legs almost gave way. No wonder she had been pressuring me all this time, sending weekly reports about my life, and doing it for 7 years. This Mid-Autumn Festival, your dad and I went to their house to give gifts. Her dad said, "Bring that silly cow you've been letting roam back here." The little girl was shy, wouldn't agree, said she wanted to come herself. I pointed at myself, silly cow. When Hailey walked out of the makeup room, I was left speechless. Her wedding dress bloomed like a lily, making her look like a celestial being. She slowly walked up to me, spun around, and asked with a playful smile, "Does it look good?" I barely swallowed and nodded. She was beautiful, so beautiful. This beautiful woman was going to be my wife. The kerosene lamp flickered with an orange glow, illuminating the big red, happy character. Hailey sat by the wedding bed, her face blushing. I let out a yell and jumped towards her. She flipped me onto the bed, straddling me with her long legs. She looked down at me from above, smiling seductively yet brightly. Her soft arm crossed over my neck. "Rocky, do you give up?" I laughed loudly. "I give up, I give up." She leaned close to my ear, whispering, "Humph, I want to be on top." The end. If you like Kitten's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.